homes and lives have been turned upside down because the Romans would have conquered and taken uh, their dwelling places, right? So um, Jesus is speaking to them and talking about this kingdom uh, of heaven or the kingdom of the skies, right? These people would have been looking for the Messiah, and in their mind, they are thinking about the one who would come and conquer. Jesus is sharing a revolutionary way of thinking, in that those who would achieve greatness, those who would take over and conquer, are those who are willing to sacrifice, those who are willing to do things differently and not in a violent way. But Jesus was the Messiah that would have come to rule not through violence but through sacrifice, which was something strange, especially for Jewish people who have been looking for someone to come and save them. Right? So in Jesus speaking of the kingdom of heaven, he's speaking to this group of people whose lives are in a disarray, whose lives are in a mess. Yet he's speaking to them about blessings of being a part of his kingdom. Right? God bless those who mourn, for they will be comforted. God bless those who are humble, for they will inherit the whole earth. God bless those who hunger and thirst for justice, for they will be satisfied. There would have been people in this audience who would have suffered loss, so there would be mourning. There would be those who might be literally hungry and thirsty because they have lost everything. But Jesus is speaking to them using things, using terms that they may have been experiencing in their life, and through his words, bringing comfort to them. God bless those who are merciful, for they will be shown mercy. God bless those whose hearts are pure, for they will see God. To be hungry, to have suffered loss, yet Jesus is talking about being merciful. It is hard to show mercy to someone who would have caused you distress, would have caused you harm, would have um, brought loss and suffering to your life. Yet Jesus is using these terms in teaching them the type of heart they should have, the type of way that they should uh, think, the type of way that they should do things. Showing mercy so that you would receive mercy. God bless those whose hearts are pure. He says, for they will see God. Generally speaking, to have a pure heart, a genuine heart, it's very difficult. Even people who call themselves children of God, sometimes we do things because there might be some benefit to us. Even not if not physical benefits, we do it because in our minds our aim is to gain heaven. But if someone that is of a pure heart does things out of the purity of their heart, just genuinely being a nice, loving person. Jesus says those are the people who are going to see God. Those who do things, those who have a pure heart. God bless those who work for peace, for they will be called the children of God. Make a genuine effort to find a peaceful resolution. In our world today, there are so many conflicts, locally, regionally, internationally. Conflicts are happening. God says, bless those who are the ones who are trying to find a peaceful way to resolve things. In order to be children of God, what we need to do is to find ourselves in the middle of these conflicts, and that's never going to be a safe place to be. We live in a society now where people usually try to stay out of I stay out of people's business, because usually the one who goes to part the fight to stop the fight gets injured. So it may be a coincidence that right after Jesus speaks of blessed are those who work for peace, he then says, blessed are those who are persecuted for doing right, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. Once you intend to do what is right, once you intend to find peaceful resolution to all conflicts that are going on around you, you are putting yourself in danger. Jesus then says, blessed are you when you are persecuted. Mock those who mock you, persecute you, and lie about you and say all sorts of evil things against you because you are my followers. Followers of Jesus Christ are ones who are seeking peace, no matter the circumstances. Even when they are being persecuted, when they are being ridiculed, mocked, bad things are being said about them, even though the things that they are doing are good. Paul wrote to the brethren at Galatians, I believe, and told them, don't get weary in doing well. Followers of Jesus Christ are seeking peace. Followers of Jesus Christ are merciful. Followers of Jesus Christ are pure in heart. Even under tough circumstances, even when it's not profitable to do so, those are the ones that Jesus are calling to be his followers. Remember, he's speaking to a crowd of people in an open place, those who just came out to hear him, possibly having nowhere to live. And these are the words that he is using to encourage them, in spite of their circumstances, to be merciful, to be pure in heart, to be seeking peace. Those will be the last people that are trying to seek peace. They have serious hatred in their heart for the Romans, and they are waiting for the Messiah. Jesus is the person who they may have identified as the Messiah, and then he is talking about peace and love and turning the other cheek and all these different things, being righteous, being pure in heart, being merciful. I could just imagine how they are feeling, waiting for the Messiah for so long because you are being persecuted, you are being enslaved, and the one who is the Messiah is coming and talking about peace and love and turning the other cheek and suffering long. I'm sure it's confusing for them. Even today, we try to justify retaliating. We try to justify lashing out at those who may have done something wrong to us. We struggle to find peaceful ways to resolve conflicts in our homes, in our schools, on the playground, at the workplace, even at a national level. We have problems finding peaceful resolution to our problems because everyone wants to be right. And our aim should not having a desire to be right, but having a desire to be righteous. As Jesus says, those are the ones who are going to see God. Those are the ones who are blessed. Those are the ones who are going to inherit God's kingdom. Jesus then told them, be happy about it. Be happy about being mocked. Be happy about being persecuted. Be happy about the evil things that people say. He says, and be very glad, for the great reward await you in heaven. And remember, the ancient prophets were persecuted in the same way. What Jesus is saying is he is speaking to a Jewish audience who understands that the men of God in what we call the Old Testament stood up for God and they were persecuted. Exodus 19 and verse 16, in there, Moses, as he spoke the word of God to God's people, I want to make sure I quote that properly. Exodus 19. Moses said to them, verse 14, we read, Moses went down to the people and consecrated them for worship, and they washed their clothes. He told them, get ready for the third day, and until then abstain from having sexual intercourse. On the morning of the third day, thunder roared and lightning flashed, and a dense cloud came down on the mountain. There was a loud blast from the ram's horn, and all the people trembled. Moses led them out from the camp to meet God, and they stood at the foot of the mountain. All of Mount Sinai was covered in smoke because the Lord had descended on it in the form of fire. The smoke billowed into the sky like smoke from a brick kiln, and the whole mountain shook violently. As the blast of the ram's horn grew louder and louder, Moses spake, and God thundered this reply. The Lord came down on top of Mount Sinai and called Moses on top of it. The Lord told Moses, go back down and warn the people not to break through the boundaries to see the Lord, or they will die. Even the priests who regularly came near to the Lord must purify themselves, so the Lord does not break out and destroy them. I believe I gave you the wrong text there. And what I'm looking for, Moses spoke to the people, the Jewish nation, and told them that they are going to be a kingdom of priests, going to be his holy nation. To make the point that the Jews were the ones who were supposed to show the world God's righteousness, and they fell short. And whenever they fell short, God's prophets were the ones who stood up and tried to show them, guide them back to God. And whenever the prophets did that, they were persecuted. We are at a time now where God still wants to fulfill that dream of having the world learn how to be God's people, learn how to be righteous by those of us who follow Jesus. Let's look at what Jesus says from verse 17. Don't misunderstand why I have come. I did not come to abolish the law of Moses or the writings of the prophets. No, I came to accomplish their purpose. There was a reason that God did things the way he did in the Old Testament. There was a reason why he chose the Jewish people. There was a reason why he had his prophets and his word come through them. The reason was God wanted this nation to show the rest of the world God's will. And they, instead of doing that, they became like the other nations. They became just like them. And in coming like them, God had to then use a different way. As Jesus is saying, I did not come to abolish. I came to fulfill their purpose. So in Jesus' message, that's he is sharing the purpose. He is giving the formula.
All right, just 1 minute. Dr. Davis? Okay, for some reason he's not hearing us. He's trying to get in onto the program as well. And I was told the text that you were searching for, Exodus 19:6.
19:6.
Yes.
Beautiful. Thank you, Dr. Davis.
You can continue.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we are now called, those of us who are followers of Christ, we are now called his peculiar people, his royal priesthood, his holy nation. Israel was supposed to be that. Jesus is asking those who follow him to follow these guidelines, do these things, show the world there is a better way, a peaceful way. And sometimes in doing that, you may have to suffer. That's the kingdom of heaven. That's what we are called to do. Jesus then says, until I tell you the truth. Until heaven and earth disappear, not even the smallest detail of God's law will disappear until its purpose is achieved. God's intent is that all man be saved, all mankind be saved. And how that happens, you and I must show the world how to live a full and abundant life by following God's will. But if we are the ones who struggle with suffering long, if we are the ones who struggle with being merciful, if we are the ones who struggle with having a pure heart, how do we expect the world to be better? How do we expect the world to learn and understand what it means to live for Jesus? To be better. What it means. Jesus then says, verse 20, but I warn you, unless your righteousness is better than the righteousness of the teachers of the religious law and the Pharisees, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. The religious teachers of the time, Jesus is saying to this audience of basically nobodies who would have come from all over the region. He is saying to them, your righteousness must exceed those who teach you the law. You must be better. You must do better. Because God's intent was to fulfill a purpose, and that purpose was the world would understand what it means to be children of God, what it means to be righteous, what it means to be peaceful, what it means to be merciful, what it means to have love and show love. Right? So we must understand we are the ones who struggle with. We must understand what God's will is. Jesus then starts to discuss the idea of salt and light. Salt is something that preserves and helps things last long. And in the Caribbean, we love our saltfish or codfish, right? It lasts long and has a nice flavor, right? Salt adds flavor, salt preserves. Jesus is saying his people must be like that. We must preserve things. We must add flavor. We are the ones to do that. In a world that people are lost, people are suffering, people are hurting, we are the ones that should bring flavor to their life. We are the ones that should help preserve their lives. That's why we must be the salt of the earth. That's why we must be a light. In this world of darkness, people must have a guiding light. Right? When I came to the radio station here, standing and looking out at the ocean, and it's pure blackness, just darkness. And across, I can see a bright light. Even in the midst of all that darkness, I can look across and see a light at the top of the mountain. I could just imagine a ship that is coming in. From a distance, is seeing this bright light in this total darkness. They have a direction, a guidance, which way to go. That's how we should be, light. We should be a light to those that are in darkness. That means we must be different. We must do things differently. Right? So Jesus did not come to abolish anything. Jesus came to fulfill, so that the world will know through us who follow him that there is a better way to do things. There's a better way to live. Right? So these things that Jesus in this sermon, probably the greatest sermon ever preached. Jesus then teaches about anger, about married life, adultery, divorce, so on and so forth. Being honest about your vows, right? Those are some of the lessons. Jesus then teaches on revenge, and I want us to look at that from verse 38. You have heard the law that says the punishment must match the injury, eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say, do not resist an evil person. If someone slaps you on the right cheek, offer the other cheek also. If you are sued in court and your shirt is taken from you, give your coat too. If a soldier demands that you carry his gear for a mile, carry it 2 miles. Give to those who ask, and don't turn away from those who want to borrow. Jesus is teaching them a different way of living. Imagine this audience, this crowd, whose lives are uprooted, who have lost everything. He's saying to them, if a Roman soldier, and that was Roman law, a Roman soldier could be walking and he sees you, he could command you to carry the things that he has for a mile. After a mile, that's the law, 1 mile. Jesus is saying to them, if the soldier demands that you carry his gear a mile, carry it 2 miles. That is what going the extra mile means. That's what going the extra mile means. So by law, you had to carry for 1 mile. Jesus is saying to do more than the law requires. For us to be people of God, we need to do more than what is required. That's the lesson. You are slapped on one cheek, give the other. I made a point about this a few days ago. I wouldn't do it on air. I wouldn't do it on air. But this is something we struggle with. Our instant reaction is to retaliate. Someone hits me, I automatically hit them back. They hurt me, my intent is to hurt them more than they hurt me. Jesus is saying in his kingdom, we are having a different way of doing things. We are trying a different way. We are trying a better way. So when the Roman, who is someone that the Jews would have hated, commands and gives a demand, Jesus is saying to them, go beyond the command. Do more than what is required by law. If someone sues you, they sue you for your shirt, give them the coat too. The law says the punishment must match the injury. So an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. Jesus is saying, no, that's not how we are going to do things. This way might feel better for the average human, but someone who is pure of heart, someone who wants to be a follower of Christ, they are going to teach themselves to deny themselves and follow Jesus' teaching. That's where the struggle begins. That's where the difficulty really lies. In that we are going to be people who are struggling, people who are fighting to make ends meet, people whose lives are in turmoil. Jesus is still saying, in those hard moments, when you get the upper hand on someone, yield, show mercy, give comfort to them, even though you might be in a moment where you need comfort yourself. That's the type of mind that's the type of mind we need to cultivate. That's the type of mind we need to have. If we are to be followers of Christ, if we are to be children in his kingdom. His nation is a different nation. One that is seeking peace, one that is trying to find ways to resolve conflicts, one that is going to go the extra mile when needed, one that is going to help those who are in distress, one that is going to stay the course even in the midst of hardship and persecution. That's who we are to be. Jesus then says in verse 43, you have heard the law that says, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say, love your enemies, pray for those who persecute you. In that way, you will be acting as true children of your Father in heaven. For he gives his sunlight to both the evil and the good, and he sends rain to the just and the unjust alike. These are difficult sayings. We read them and sometimes we fail to put ourselves in the position of the audience that Jesus is speaking to. And sometimes we lie to ourselves and don't see that we also struggle with these things. We have people we love, as we say in Trinidad, my blood just take this person, and we build a nice relationship. But the person that we for some reason there's no chemistry, we standoffish and we find ways to avoid them. And sadly sometimes we do that in our places of worship too. Right? We know brother so and so, sister so and so sits on at this spot, and because we don't want to have a relationship, we find ways to stay as far away from that spot as possible. Or we come late to service and we make sure we leave early because we're just trying to avoid. Jesus is saying to them, love your enemies. Pray for those who persecute you. You could imagine someone is willfully harming you, and Jesus is asking you to pray for them. So you're in a house living with someone, and in your mind, that person is doing everything to bring hurt and pain to your life. What you are called to do is to pray for them. Ask God to bless their lives and hope and pray that they are doing the same thing. We are called to be different. We are called to do things differently. And some of these things that we are called to do, they are hard. It takes a change of heart, a change of mind, a change in the way we think. We have to understand we are not of this world. We are in it, but we are not of it. We are part of God's heavenly kingdom. And because we are part of God's heavenly kingdom, we have to try and think the way he would think. So Jesus gives an example. This is why we should love our enemies and pray for those that willfully hurt us. He is saying because the God that we serve, he makes the sunlight shine for everyone. He brings rain for everyone, those who love him, those who don't love him. God is fair, honest, and just. We must be the same. We can't claim to be his children and act and have a different characteristic. We must have his characteristics. We must be just like him. That's what shows that we are his children. Stop retaliating. Stop trying to hurt people just because they hurt you and hurt them more than they hurt you. What we are called to do is to act, be, and think different. Those are God's children. Verse 46 says, if you love only those who love you, what reward is there for that? Even corrupt tax collectors do that much. And Jesus uses people who they are familiar with. They have a disdain for tax collectors, for Jews who work for the enemy. Those are the lowest people. And what Jesus says, even those who you think you consider to be the lowest of the low, the worst of our society, they can even do that much, loving people who love them. We must be different. We must be different. If you are kind only to your friends, how are you different from anyone else? Even pagans do that. We can't afford to be just like everyone else. We have to be different because our intent, our purpose is to show the world a better way, show the world a different way. So we can't be just like them. So we cannot just be kind to those who are in our own circle, just to our friends, those who worship where we worship. We must be different. We must show love even to those who doesn't show love to us. I want to share a personal story. A few years ago, someone broke into the church building. Just a few months before the pandemic shut down the country. and a young man was accused of committing the crime with enough evidence, ample evidence. And during the pandemic, everyone was hit hard, and the church made an effort to give out some groceries to the village where we are located. And when we went through the list, we had some members walk through the village and find out who needed assistance. On the list was the family of this young man. And we had brethren who were in an uproar because, again, the evidence proved that he was the one that broke into the building and took took thousands of dollars worth of equipment and stuff from the kitchen, even the water pump, everything. And we came in Saturday to clean up the building, and there was water all over the building because they just cut the pipes and took the pump. All the water just ran out into the building. And it was difficult for me too. But I had to teach the lessons. I had to reiterate the lessons that I would have been teaching at the time. If we are to be God's children, we must do things differently. And if there are people who are in need, people who need assistance, not because he may have done wrong to us, means that we should do the same thing. That's not what God wants from us. So that's a moment where the theory of it became practical, and we had to practice that. And not just practice it because we are commanded to, but practice it and understand that's the way we should always think. Knowing that, hey, we are doing this not only because God commands, but we are doing this because we are trying to be like him. So it has to become our nature. It has to become who we are. People who are going to help, people who are going to do good, even to those who we know or who we think have done us wrong. That's a difficult lesson to learn, and to have to actually do it in that moment. It was difficult. It was tough. However, to be called children of God, we have to do what the word says. We have to practice that. We have no other choice. Right? So Jesus is saying, don't only do good to your friends, don't only do good to those who you love. We have to pray for our enemies, pray for those who persecute us. We have to be different from anyone else. Jesus says even the pagans do that. Even those who have no relationship with God would help those who are close to them, love those who love them. We have to be different. We need to be different. And we are at a time in our society where people need to see that type of difference. The level of hate crime, the level of murders, robberies are coming from places where people feel hurt, and their mind is, I'm going to hurt you like I hurt. I'm going to hurt you more than I hurt. We must show them different. They must see a different way of thinking. Jesus then says, but you are to be perfect, even as your Father in heaven is perfect. And perfect in context here doesn't mean faultless, but it gives the idea of being complete, right? Being complete. We must be complete individuals. We must be individuals who understand God's will. We must be individuals who are working towards fulfilling God's plan. Because God's plan has always been for his people to show the world a better way, lead the world to him. The Jews failed in their effort of doing that. We cannot fail. We should not fail. We should be the ones who show the world who wants to hate those who hate them. We must show them love conquers all. We must show them that we are going to do more than is required. We are going to sacrifice how we feel at times, sacrifice our emotions, our anger at times. Put that aside and do what God asks us to do. because we want to please him and not ourselves. So Hector, I don't know if you have anything to add or take away.
It's a very interesting discussion on the Sermon on the Mount. Many things that you mentioned do relate to our society today, and many things that goes on, even within, as you mentioned, the church setting. And I think it's very important for us as you go through this lesson to, yes, recognize the setting where Jesus Christ was speaking, but most importantly, let's apply it. This 2024 that we're in, and let's do our best to, make Jesus, the teaching of Jesus, real in our lives.
Yeah. And that's why I try to give a personal example of a moment where we had to love someone that most of the brethren considered enemy, because, as I said, the evidence more or less proved that he would have been the one who broke into the church building, right? So I had to convince myself, look, we need to let this go. Well, this is a young man. For him to spend time in jail, that would turn his life upside down. That may change a lot. So we let that go, forget that, and that was the easiest part. But then to know that the family is in distress, and now we have an opportunity to help, and he is one of the person that's going to benefit from this. It was a difficult thing to do, because that's not what we are accustomed doing. We are accustomed helping those who we have a good relationship with, helping those who we love. There were people we had no problem at all helping, because they are nice people in our mind, nice people. But to help someone who we possibly know for sure that person caused distress, cost us some finances, finances that could have gone to be helped to helping more people. We had to then spend money on repurchasing some equipment for the building. We are going to use from the limited resources that we now have to help this person. There was some opposition, and I'm going to be honest, with the opposition, it took everything in me to go against that and say, no, we have to help. Because the natural thing to do is, I agree, because of him, his mother, his sister, the rest of the family have to pay because of what he did. That's the mindset. That's the easiest switch to turn on. Lock that off. Don't help them. So some others who had nothing to do with it, there was a comfort level in having them suffer because of what he did. That type of thinking could never be the thinking of a child of God. We are to do as we are commanded. Even our enemies, love our enemies. Pray for those who persecute us. There may be husband and wife living in the same house, and they're not talking to each other. And in your mind, that person, the other person is responsible for this hurt I'm feeling here. Even in those moments, you are called to pray for your quote unquote enemy in that moment. The neighbor whose animals are coming in the yard and eating your plants, making a mess, causing disruption. That's the neighbor you should be praying for. That's the neighbor you should love. That's the neighbor you should do good for. For us, however, that's the neighbor it's easiest to forget and don't talk to them. Let them go, do whatever you want, because in your mind, they don't care about me, so I don't need to care about them. That's not the lesson that Jesus would have taught in this Sermon on the Mount. He's asking people to be different, asking people to act different, do things differently. And different not only means different from how you would do it, not only different from how the world would do it, but totally different to how any other kingdom would operate. Jesus is asking us in his kingdom to be different to the way the earthly realm, where this world thinks. We must have a mind that is heavenly, because the kingdom we are a part of is a heavenly kingdom. Our ruler is heavenly. His rules are heavenly. And we must obey his rules if we are to be his subjects, if we are to be his citizens, if we are to be his church. We must be different. As Jesus said, he came to fulfill the reason why God chose this nation. And God chose them just because he loved them, only because he loved them. They failed. So God, then Jesus is saying, I am come to fulfill that. The Jews became just like the nations around them. First thing they wanted a king just like the other nations. And they started to follow the other nations. We are called to have a different way of thinking. Our ruler, our prime minister, our leader is one that is heavenly. And he asks us to do things differently, be different. We live in a world where everything is meant to divide us. Religion, politics, even sports. I root for one team, you root for another one. Everything is meant to divide. Jesus is in the business of uniting people. Jesus is the business of having people work together, even people who are enemies, even people who hate each other. He is giving us an example of what it means to find peace, seek peace, and he's asking us to do the same. Sometimes in making having a conflict resolved, someone has to take wrong. In having a conflict resolved, someone may have to lose. But when everyone wants to win, there's no way we could resolve the problem. There's no way we could solve the problem. There's no way we could get past the problem because everyone wants to win. Jesus is saying his followers must be the ones who are willing to take a loss. His followers are the ones who are willing to go the extra mile, to distress themselves, because we want the end result of peace, the end result of love and harmony. We must give ourselves wrong, suffer loss. That's difficult to do because we live in a world where winning is important. Coming out first is important. Having the last say is important. Coming out on top is important. That's the world we live in every aspect of our lives. That's how the system is set up. Getting the promotion over someone else. Doing the better assignment to get more marks. Running the fastest time so I can get the gold medal. And I get the gold medal, I get a bigger purse. That's the world we live in. That's the society we live in. Jesus wants a society where we all feel equal, we all are equal, we live that way. Sometimes that means I must give up my right. I must give up winning. I must give up having the last say. I must give up my constitutional right for peace. And that's difficult to do. Because all my life I have done things my way, gotten what I've gotten what I want, when I want it, how I want it. And now you are telling me I have to give that up for peace? Peace shouldn't cost me anything. And peace is not free. In order for God to make peace with you and I, he gave up his only son. God was willing to go the extra mile. God was willing to go above and beyond to reconcile with us. We must have that same mindset. We must be willing to give up the thing we love the most, if that means peace. And no one loves themselves less than anything else. We love ourselves the most. So Jesus is asking his audience, and he's asking us today, give up how we feel and our right for peace, for love to reign, for his kingdom service. We must give that up. Forget how I feel. What does God want me to do? That's what we are called to do. That's not easy in this moment, but trust me, it gets easier with time. When you start to practice what God wants you to do, believe me, it gets easier. It becomes second nature. You don't even realize that you are doing it. And those who are on the outside would call you passive, would call you a coward, would say things. In the long run, you have a better night's sleep because you are at peace. Not just peace with yourself, but peace with your maker. You are at peace. And that's the peace that Paul said to the Philippians, that peace passes understanding. You can't understand, you can't explain it. It comes. Even in the midst of turmoil and conflict, you are at peace because you are doing what God asked you to do. If you want to have a peaceful life, if you want to have a restful life, if you want to have a full and abundant life, just follow God's instructions. And you are going to see how drastic your life changes. It's time we trust God and not trust how we feel. Trust our own instincts. Right? It's time we do that. Well, Rohan?
Thank you, Brother Bright, for a wonderful presentation and the Sermon on the Mount. I'm also mindful of what Paul said in Romans chapter 12, verse 9. So we need to let our love, be genuine. The King James said, let it be without hypocrisy. And, it needs to be sincere. Our love really needs to be sincere. Just love, don't just pretend to love people, but, let us really strive to love them. And again, that's the heart. That's at the heart of Jesus's message. And as you really pointed out and truly pointed out, is something that is difficult for many of us to do. But, practice becomes permanent. So the more we do things, then it becomes second nature to us. So we just really am hoping that as we dive more into God's word and understand truly what God expects of us, that we will be ready and willing to do just that. We didn't get any caller tonight. I heard Brother Davis was doing his best to get in on the program. And again, we want to thank him for sharing that verse with us in the book of Exodus. And it truly has been an interesting program. And as we wind down, yes.
I'm seeing Dr. Davis there. I know that he's listening. I don't know if he...
Well, I certainly want to thank the two brothers for being here tonight. And it's such an awesome thing to have both of them be a part of the program. And both of these, I think Huggins is from Trinidad, I think. And yes. Brother Hector, of course, is from SVG St. Vincent and Grenadines, and he is one of the local evangelists there. And I think Brother Huggins also does the TV program there in St. Vincent. I'm not incorrect.
Currently, yes. He's currently doing the Bible Speaks program, yes.
Right. So they're making meaningful contribution. But tonight, I want to thank them. But I also want to, we're trying here at the Riverhead Church of Christ, we've been trying to do some fundraising to help out the two congregations in Oria and Sandy Bay. And the buildings there were damaged as a result of the volcano. So we've been trying to do some things. And that, of course, has been slow. So I guess if any of you listening tonight would like to be a part of that, if you're in the U.S., you can simply send whatever you want to do, a contribution to the, actually, if you send it to Post Office Box 1368, Riverhead, New York, 11901, and you make out the check to the Riverhead Church of Christ. Again, I want to give you that. It's Post Office Box 1368, Riverhead, it's one word, Riverhead's one word, New York, and the zip is 11901. USA. And if you want to contribute, you can send a check, make it out to the Riverhead Church of Christ, because what we really are trying to do is probably somewhere around June or May, we want to actually get a number of people from the US to actually go there to St. Vincent and actually with hands-on and be able to do some work there and help the brethren. Because what we're trying to do is to avoid using funds for labor and just use the funds just for material. And so this is what we're trying to do here. And so if any of you listening tonight and want to be a part of that, we certainly would like that. You certainly can reach me. And certainly if you're in St. Vincent, of course, you can reach Hector or any of the brethren there in St. Vincent. But if you want to interact directly with me, you can certainly WhatsApp me at 516-848-5669. Or you can, my email address is it's the Full and Abundant Life. So it's FALife2007@hotmail.com. And certainly we would like to hear from you, and any contribution that you want to make, we certainly would appreciate that. And so again, I truly want to thank these two brothers. They've done a wonderful job. And I like how they've slowed things down with the scriptures and actually walk us through the early ministry of Jesus and his the things that he certainly has outlined for us. I do have to say, brothers, that those things are difficult. Someone hit you on one side, it's kind of difficult to turn the other. But that's what Jesus said. That's who he is, and that's the goal, that's the terminus that we want to be. So I want to thank all of you, and I want to also thank those of you who are on the Facebook page. I know this Francis York is in Jamaica, and he's on the line with us here tonight. And most of you guys in SVG that know Francis York, he's here with us. Linda Johnson is here with us. Miss Roberts is here with us. And also, who else is here? Stephanie is here with us. And Keitha in Canada is here with us. Felina, who is actually, Felina is up in Pennsylvania, in our area, actually, doing some stuff. And certainly she and her husband, George, is probably listening here tonight. And we certainly want to thank all of you who are part of the program. And certainly we want to thank WeFM and Kamal for pulling all of this together and making it happen. So we certainly want to thank, and you guys are always invited back. You don't have to, just show up, as a matter of fact, and you don't have to wait for an invitation. That's what I'm saying. We certainly would love to have all of you be a part of the program at any time that you feel like you want to do that. I know Hector drove a long way from where he lives, probably an hour or so, to be at WeFM here tonight. So we certainly really appreciate that and the time he has taken out. We also have Ian, who's in Jamaica, that's tuned in tonight. And certainly Ian is a gospel preacher and evangelist in Jamaica, and certainly a privilege to have him tuning in here with us tonight. So again, you guys, I'm quoting, I'm letting you, I'm not sure if you all are seeing the screen that I'm seeing. You guys seeing those people?
No, we're not.
Okay, but you know Francis York, right?
Yes.
Okay. Right. So he's here tonight with us on listening to you guys. So it's certainly a privilege again. And of course, I know Kamal is ready to say goodbye. Because
No, actually, I was giving you time because we had some technical glitch, so we kind of were like 5 minutes over or something like that.
Okay, so you're giving us back our time.
Yeah, I was just giving you back your time, but if you want to end now, hey, I can go.
Well, know what the lesson say? If you ask to go a mile, you're supposed to go an extra mile. So,
like you said, it's difficult.
We certainly
most times,
implement that message here tonight. So, but again, I want to thank all of you, and I certainly deeply indebted to you guys for taking the time out to be at WeFM tonight. I know it's a long drive that you guys have to get back home tonight. Please drive safely and get back home safely, and love to your family and the contributions that you guys continue to make there in St. Vincent. God bless you all, and thank you, Kamal, and thank all of you who are on the Facebook page tonight. Thank you all, and see you all next Wednesday night, same time, same place. God bless.
Thank you very much, Dr. Claudius Davis. Thank you very much, Dwight Huggins and Rohan Hector, for all being here on the Full and Abundant Life Radio program, which comes your way each and every Wednesday from 9 until 10. Also want to thank the listening audience for being a part of the program as well by simply listening. So God's willing to join us again next Wednesday right here on the Clean Fresh Sound for another Full and Abundant Life Radio program. Well, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, it's also time for me to bid you goodbye. It was certainly a pleasure being here from 6 this evening until now, musically entertaining you and also lending technical assistance to both interactive programs.